The spear seems to do more work of the magic sword. The spear is good for like large. So, since the last podcast, I beat a game called Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. It is a game published by Adult Swim Games. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Samurai Jack. We all grew up with it in the early 2000s. Then it came back in 2017 with the final season to conclude. And this game is based off the show. So, what are my thoughts after completing the game? If you want the quick version, the condensed notes version, I like it and it's worth buying, and I'm solely saying that for the simple fact that the game is only $40. Now let's say why. Let's talk positives and negatives. I have 6 positives and 3 negatives. First and foremost, the game is gorgeous. Some people might disagree with me. I've seen some people say that it looks like a mobile game, but I kind of feel like that's the charm of the game. It has very simple design. The world is very simple, bright and colorful. The geometry of the world. Sometimes people got to understand that less is more. It doesn't have like crazy textures in it, but just like the color scheme of the world and how they animated everything. I thought the game looked really good. So that's my first positive. My second positive is this game is straight up fan service. If you're wondering, should I play this game? If I've never played Samurai Jack, if I've never watched Samurai Jack, probably not, because you're not going to get the references, and we'll get into that in the negative sides. You're not going to really get everything that's going on in the story. This game is more of a fan service, so it's just going to throw you in the deep end, but that's a positive. That's a fan service. So like, there's reoccurring characters like the Irish dude, the monkey man and shit like that, and Naku's daughter and all that stuff. So like, if you're a big fan of the show, it's gonna highlight a lot of some of the best moments of the show, and you get to play through them, but like kind of like a remixed version. And that kind of gets me into my negative, right? So this is fan service, and some people might like that, but me personally, on the same time, I felt like they could have did more. My negative is the story is lazy. The fan service, it's weird. It's a positive and a negative, right? I don't know how to explain this. It's cool because on one hand you get to revisit like reoccurring moments, and I guess it's not as drawn out as like Dragon Ball. They keep repeating the same stories in Dragon Ball, but this is like the first time reoccurring some of the story. But I still feel kind of like it was lazy at the same time, because basically, to spoil it without spoiling it, Jack is about to fuck up Aku, and then Aku's like, haha, psych, and he sends him back in time, and he makes Jack relive all like the great moments from the show. So it's like, it technically is an original story, but it's actually just like Dragon Ball Xenoverse, actually, when you think about it. Dragon Ball Xenoverse was technically an original story, but it was basically just a reimagining of the original story. Like, someone kind of slightly fucked up the timeline, but it's all just an excuse for you to go back and relive the original Dragon Ball timeline. That's basically what Jack is. And like, if you're a super fan, you're gonna love the fan service, but then also I didn't like the fact that they didn't do more. Maybe they could have did like 50-50. That's what I'm trying to say. They could have met me in the middle. Like, there could have been fan service, but it also could have pivoted and become an original thing. And like, all it is Jack going through and living through his best moments just to come out of that fucking time warp and fuck up Aku. And that was a little bit disappointing. The next positive, the combat. The combat is cool. It's simple. It's fun. It's clean. It reminds me of like the GameCube PS2 era, like the action adventure games from that era. Don't expect like nothing like super deep, but it's a fun beat 'em up hack and slash game. And like, the next positive would actually be the skill tree. That I think that's what would keep you engaged. There's a lot of different abilities. Like in the combat, you can parry, and when you parry people, if you perfectly time it, it'll do like a counter attack which damages them. There's a combo system. It's not as deep as something like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, but there's a combo system there that you have to manage. A bunch of different items and abilities. There's a bunch. Oh, Jack gets a gun, bow and arrow. So there's a bunch of projectile weapons and stuff like that. The combat is interesting enough. Don't expect to be mind blown, but it felt like a PS2 GameCube era type action adventure game, and I'm okay with that, especially at $40. This is not something that's reinventing the wheel, but what it does do is it's a very polished wheel. I'll say that much. A very polished wheel. My next negative is there is parrying in the game, but I feel like the parrying system could have been a little bit more responsive. It felt like luck half the time. I would try to parry people and like it just wouldn't work. So be aware that your timing is going to have to be absolutely like amazing, because this game, by the way, is, I didn't put this on the positive or the negatives, but just to let you know, this game is hard as shit. It's not bad like the first half of the game, but the second half of the game, woo, this shit, there's a difficulty spike, boy, and it turns up. Like there's one boss fight where you have to fight all 7 of fucking Aku's daughters. Oh my god, bro. Woo! Like you just had 7 bad bitches just running after you and shit and just doing all types of attacks. And then there was one standing on top of a mountain. If you got too close to her, she would throw projectiles at you. It was a rough fight. It took me about 5-6 tries to do that shit. And then in the final hour of the game, there's a trial by fire where you have to fight a bunch of like mini bosses before you can get to the final fight with Aku. So just be aware, this game is hard. I was definitely pulling out my hair at one point. But that being said, did I say the skill tree? Oh no, I was talking about the negatives. The next positive is, I talked about the skill tree, the voice acting. Voice acting is on point. It has all the original voice actors from the show. Not much to say there, but great performances. I always love a game with good voice acting. My third and last negative is, my positive is there is a big ass skill tree in this where you can learn a lot of different abilities and combos and stuff like that. But my negative for that is it felt like the game was stingy with skill points. Whenever you would like kill enemies and stuff, you would collect points, but then also you'd have to have the skill points plus like specific like items in order to upgrade the ability. So by the time I got to the end of the game, I feel like I only touched like half the skill tree. And that's very rare for me, because I'm an RPG dude. Y'all know, you see me play Assassin's Creed, I had over 200 parts on that shit. I'm the type where I like to fill out the entire skill tree, and I feel like the game was unnecessarily difficult to do that. Especially considering the fact that this is a short game. It's like 10 hours. Depending on your skill level, it'll probably take you like 8 to 12 hours to beat. It took me 10. So that's why I say it'll probably take, depending on your skill level, probably between 8 and 12. But it felt like they were stingy with the skill points. It would have been nice to have been able to fill out more of the skill tree. And last but not least, my positive, my last one is the game has cool boss fights. It has some cool ass boss fights, big ass ones, small ass ones. That like they have like bigger ones where like they have like big ass AoEs, and they have like smaller boss fights where dude is like super fast and it really tests your ability to parry and stuff like that. So I felt like there was a good variety of enemy types there, and the platforming was really fun. Beautiful world, combat, skill tree. Overall, even though there was a crazy difficulty spike and I almost pulled out my hair at the end, let me get some of this water. At the end of the day, I still did have fun. I don't let my frustration cloud my judgment. I still had fun, and at $40, I have no problem recommending this game. Adult Swim's got a heater on them. And it's crazy too, because I guess I've been asleep on Adult Swim games. People have been telling me that this shit is fire, but I don't know. Adult Swim, make some more games. Make a Boondocks game. Although they're going to HBO now. They're going to HBO. An anime Boondocks game. That shit would be fire. Where the final fight is against Stink Meaner. That shit. What did you say, nigga?